Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I am the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. We appreciate you listening to the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. We appreciate it. And tell a friend as well. We're trying to get the word out there about the show. So we had the Open at Tallahassee this weekend, Josh, and Albert Tamm getting his first U.S. win and taking down his first Silver Series event. And we have not seen a European MPO player take down a big tournament, if you want to call this a big tournament. It's better than your average A tier. Right. We have not seen that really since Simon Lizotte has won a couple tour events, Memorial, over the last few years. And obviously we've been waiting to see who's it going to be. Is it going to be Linus Karlsson? Is it going to be Lauri Lehtinen? But it is the bazooka himself, Albert Tamm, who gets the win and kind of limped into the finish, Josh. But after two sparkling opening rounds, including his best ever rated round in round one, he comes away the victor. How important do you think this victory is for Albert?
For Albert, I think it's immense. He has had flashes of brilliance in the past and shown that he's able to play at a high level. I think to be able to take down a win, as you mentioned, a big tournament, I think is the best way to describe this, is got to be such a huge confidence builder going into the season and justifying it's not cheap to come over to the United States and live and play for extended periods of time. And remember, Tamm made the trip last year, going through the effort of going to Mexico and spending 2 weeks outside the Schengen zone in Europe in order to make it over to the United States. And so he's put in immense effort in order to be a part of the United States tour scene. And it must be so gratifying to have that pay off and even a Silver Series win in order to continue to fuel his game moving forward.
Over in FPO, Stacie Haas gets her first tour victory in her first year on tour. I mean, she's played just 8 Disc Golf Pro Tour events ever, Silver Series, Elite Series combined. And the 18-year-old comes away a victor and looks convincing doing so, Josh. Just absolutely shredding the field and coming into the final round, going up against some stalwart names in Lisa Fakis and Jessica Weiss. And she outplayed everybody and took down a really strong win. We knew that she could be great. Second at Junior Worlds last year. We've seen the flashes with her combined power and putting, and I think we saw it all put together for the first time over the course of a tournament this weekend. And what a win for the young player.
Yeah, shooting 68 strokes above your rating is quite a feat for that final round. It's not easy to do. 982 final round.
68 strokes would be quite a lot.
Sorry,
I'm gonna give you the quick
rating
mulligan.
points.
68
Thank
points.
You. 68 rating points. Thank you. 600 rating points above. Shooting
the world's best round of all time.
Shooting 68 rating points above her rating for that final round. That's no small feat. It shows that she has the kind of capacity necessary to play at the highest level. And now it's about developing that consistency and continuing to improve and just the long grind that is tour that she obviously is going to have to become accustomed to.
Well, it's Tuesday, April 12th. We're 2 days away from the first major of the season, if you can believe it. April 14th, Champions Cup beginning at W.R. Jackson. And I think there's kind of a spectrum of how people are feeling about this tournament. I am extremely excited. I think everyone needs to realize this is the best field we've had so far this season. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the biggest payout we've had so far this season. It's at the home of the PDGA on a legendary course in the woods. What more do you want? I know this doesn't have any legacy, but how is it supposed to have any legacy? It's brand new. We get a springtime major. I am pumped. I think we have to start to get to the point where we don't just say it's Worlds and USDGC. It's a kind of a reductive way of looking at disc golf. And while those tournaments are certainly going to remain the most prestigious, I think, in my book, a major win this weekend is going to be just as big of a deal, if not even a bigger deal than winning the European Open, where we're likely to see a weaker field. So I'm excited. Obviously, we've got a lot more to come on that on our Thursday show. We're going to get that show out nice and early so that you'll have time to listen to the show and get ready for the tournament. If you want to hear more about the Open of Tallahassee, please check out our subscriber bonus segment that we recorded on Sunday night live in our Discord right after the tournament. And you can become a subscriber for less than $4 a month at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? If you want to get the custom pack that you envision in your mind's eye, the pack of your dreams, you can do it at any time. Go to PoundDiscGolf.com and you can get your custom Octothorpe, your custom Octahall, your custom Carlton, your custom Toolbox. And their custom pack builders are now open all the time. No more waiting for drops or hoping that you get lucky. You can just go build your pack. You can tinker with it for a while before you hit the order button, but you can check it all out on their website and you can just design it exactly how you want, from the zippers to the main flap to the bottom of the pack, exactly what you envision. PoundDiscGolf.com. What we're going to do now is turn our attention to a segment that we call This or That. We got two options and we got a debate, this or that. So let's dive right in. Josh, I'll let you pick the first one.
All right. So my pick comes from the Open at Tallahassee, my this or that, and it's by two people who have both, I think, overperformed expectations coming into the season a little bit. Who do you think has a better Champions Cup finish? Alden Harris, who finished 5th this weekend, or Luke Humphreys, who finished 6th this weekend?
Luke Humphreys putting together a heck of a final round.
Yes, he did. The 8 under.
So we've seen Luke Humphreys deliver on the biggest stages, certainly more than Alden Harris, who's kind of popped up the last 2 weeks at the Silver Series. For me, I got to go with Luke Humphreys. I'm really encouraged by the fact that we saw him climb up the leaderboard this weekend after okay first couple of rounds, but he really puts it all together and piles up the birdies in round 3, finds his way back up inside the top 10, and I like his chances in the woods. Alden Harris, solid player. I don't know that we've seen enough from Alden outside of these Silver Series events to make me feel like we're going to see him deliver against the giant field with all of the top players. But, I mean, we've seen Luke Humphreys be at the point of having a chance to win an Elite Series event. It is a different thing when Paul and Ricky and Calvin and everybody is not there at a Silver Series. So give me Luke Humphreys.
I think I agree with you, though I will say I think Alden Harris plays the kind of safe conservative golf that could really pay off at WR Jackson. And the other advantage here is that, I mean, it's only based on relative finish to each other. They could both get smoked by the top guys. And Alden Harris still could come out the victor, not having to worry really about that pressure of playing at the top. So I think Alden Harris is definitely not a write-off to be ignored.
All right, Josh. More likely to finish in the top 5 at Champions Cup. I'm not going to put the burden of trying to win.
Okay.
More likely to finish in the top 5, Stacie Haas or Albert Tamm?
Give me Albert Tamm. I think he has shown us at a couple of events before since 2019 that he has the capacity to play well at this highest level and compete on the Pro Tour. It's something that needs to be sustained, and I think both of these are very, very unlikely. I probably would not be putting money on either of these if I was putting any bets on this tournament. But I think Alden Harris has the experience on the tour to give him a shot at doing so. One Silver Series win is not enough for me to buy into the Stacie Haas already.
I'm buying the Stacie Haas hype,
Ooh.
at least relative to Albert Tamm.
Okay.
We watched Albert Tamm in the final round shoot under 1,000 rated, and he obviously had cushion, and he made some decisions that cost him strokes because he was playing conservatively with a lead. Totally understandable. Not expecting him to shoot his best round with a 6-stroke lead coming into the tournament or into that final round. But Stacie Haas goes out there and shoots 975, 943, 982 over 3 rounds. Carves it in the woods. Looks like the best player at the tournament. Didn't luck into it. I think if she is dialed in like that, she has a legitimate chance to finish in the top 5. And you're right. We haven't seen it before. But with a player who's really talented like this, catching fire at exactly the right time, that's a big deal. And I think we've seen the tools on display. You know, Albert Tamm, not a great putter. Had a good putting weekend for the most part. Final round a little shakier, but not a great putter statistically. Stacie Haas, one of the best putters on tour statistically. I think we've seen that she can do all of the things needed to be a top 5 type player. And although I don't expect to see consistency at this level for the entire season, when you're turning around after playing your best golf ever and you have another tournament 4 days later and you've been throwing it awesome in the woods on tight lines, which we saw her hit some really tough gaps at Tallahassee, why not?
Next, this or that. Who do you think has a better Champions Cup finish? And these are from 2 players who have not been around for a while. Drew Gibson or Eagle McMahon?
Wow. We saw them both at LVC, and that was that. I gotta go with Drew. 2 reasons. Number 1, Drew Gibson, unfairly, because he throws far, I think, has a reputation for not really being a woods player, but actually Drew Gibson is really good in the woods, and I expect to see him come out and be competitive for a win, even though he hasn't been on tour. Eagle McMahon, too many question marks. I'm sorry. The shoulder injury, we don't know what the situation is. Eagle said he was going in for an MRI. We haven't heard about what the results of that MRI. Eagle hasn't posted on social media in like 3 weeks. Well, is he even going to play in this tournament? He's still registered. We checked this morning. We'll be checking daily. I'll probably be checking every couple hours. Still registered. I just don't know that even if he plays, he's going to be at his best because of the injury. And if he can't really throw the forehand that he wants to be able to throw, you need that shot at WR Jackson. So the combination of that, plus Eagle's reputation for maybe not always having the biggest advantage in the woods, I think you got to go with Drew here.
I'll never forget watching him play at Northwood Black and the way he just throws his buzz all over. I mean, he throws it far too, but the way he throws it around the woods is just exceptional. And I remember during that pre-round interview...
And he was a beast at Hornets Nest last year too.
That's true. He was. No, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, I remember from his Jomez interview, he said he cuts his bag down to like 8 discs when he goes into woods like this. And I don't know if that's the case every time, but at least in Northwood Black, he carried 8 discs and minimized his bag and just threw the cleanest and most pure lines in those woods. I think I agree with you. You got to take Drew this weekend.
All right, I'm going to give you another Eagle one, okay?
Okay.
More likely to make the Tour Championship. And maybe this is an easy question, but maybe it's not. Brodie Smith, who's sitting in 54th place right now, or Eagle McMahon, who's sitting in 61st?
This basically asks me, is Eagle going to get hurt? Or is Eagle going to have to take like a long duration off because of his injury? I think that's what this question is. Because assuming Eagle's healthy, no problems. I'm going to pick Brodie.
Wow.
Eagle would only need to play, I think, probably 1 month of good golf at courses that suit him well, healthy, and he probably would make the Tour Championship. Like that's how much confidence I have in Eagle's abilities and skills to bounce back. it just in points, right? Because he only needs to make top 32. That being said, not hearing from Eagle on social media in 3 weeks is not a good sign. The discussions and the time that he put into recovery. Remember, he dropped out of the Pro Tour Championship last year and has spent since then rehabbing his shoulder. And to not be able to start your season because you're still dealing with that nagging injury means that there's not been the proper rehabilitative process, or something is stopping it from getting better. And whether that's a tear, whether that's something else that we just don't know about yet, this is just so unlike. I mean, it's just so many red flags. So many red flags around an injured athlete. And if I was looking at this from any other sport, from any other player, I would have serious concerns about the longevity of this season, or the durability needed to complete at this full season. And I'm still not convinced Brody's going to make the Pro Tour Championship.
Right.
Like, I really don't think it's that. I'd take the odds against it before I would take the odds for it. But Eagle right now is giving me no reason to have any confidence in his season.
Yeah, I mean, I have to take Eagle on this question just because I literally don't think Brody can make it. The results so far this season, like, he's not going to accumulate enough points, I don't think. And Eagle doesn't even need to play that many tournaments to get in, assuming he's good to go. The real question for me is he going to have to get surgery? Really is the big question. You know, he said he thinks he might have a labrum tear. He's going to try some therapies that don't require surgery, which is totally understandable. We talked about that on a show a few weeks ago. But he might. Like, sometimes that is the only option. Mm-hmm. And if you're thinking from the long term as Eagle, like, you got to get yourself right. You don't want to push through and hurt, like, make it worse, or not let it improve and get better for the long term. And I know I'm sure he's incredibly hungry to compete. And we may well see him at Champions Cup. I mean, again, he is still registered. But if he does have to get a surgery, that's obviously going to take him out for the year. That's it. Mm-hmm. And so then he literally has 0% chance of making the Tour Championship. I still think, because that we saw him throwing comfortably backhand with no pain, I think he's good enough to play backhand only for the entire season. And then maybe he decides if he does have to get surgery, maybe he gets it in the off season. Maybe he plays through it. I don't know that I would recommend that to him if I was, his doctor or something like that, but I could see him doing that. And to me, that means you have to pick Eagle on this question.
And that's fair. Here's the one caveat I want to bring up. Gavin Rathbun had the torn labrum, right? That's the injury that kept him out.
That's
right. Gavin Rathbun left the tour at the Disc Golf Pro Tour Match Play Championship. And we have not seen him, nor will we see him until Jonesboro.
Oh, he dropped out of Champions Cup too, huh?
He did. At least according to UDisc, on his registration, he has Jonesboro as being his next tournament. I mean, Gavin Rathbun, I think, he's not Eagle McMahon, but I think he's hungry as well. I mean, Gavin Rathbun just signed a new contract. He was playing incredibly well last year. He's got every reason to want to play as well.
Well, it's a bummer. And maybe he had a little bit of a setback, because we heard him on a podcast a few weeks ago talking about how he was going to be back for Music City Open, and then he dropped out of that, and it looked like he was going to be back at Tallahassee, and then he dropped out of that. And now he's not playing Champions Cup. So just doesn't feel ready yet. And I mean, that goes to show you it can be a long recovery. It can be a long recovery. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Next question. More likely to finish inside the top 10 in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings at the end of the season, Josh? Cat Merch, who is in 5th place right now, or Kona Panis, who is in 19th?
I've got to take Cat Merch. I mean, we saw a good finish from Kona at Tallahassee against a significantly reduced field, but Cat Merch, I mean, it's the same Alden Harris, Luke Humphreys answer. Luke Humphreys and Cat Merch have played against the top players and finished in the top 5 regularly. And there's no reason that she has given me to believe that that's not going to continue.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously, the longevity of the career of Kona Panis and what we've seen from her historically might lead you to believe that she has the higher ceiling. I certainly was encouraged by what we saw from Kona this weekend in terms of throwing the disc around off the tee and in the fairways. Mm-hmm. Much better. The putting is not good. And it just might never be good. Might never be good. I think Kona can still be a top 10 player on tour with weak putting. It's very possible. Is that enough for me to say, do we think this is like a hot start from Cat Merch that's going to cool off? Honestly, no. I think the answer is Cat Merch as well. I think the answer is Kat Mertsch because she has leveled up her stats in every category. It's not just finishes. She's birdieing more. She's getting under the circle more. She's putting better. Like, everything is better. And this is a player who, like Stacie Haas, although a little bit more experienced on tour, has the tools to be one of the better players on the tour. And we're seeing it round into form after she worked a ton on her game in the offseason. What more do you need to see? We've got a big sample size at this point at the beginning of the season. I'm going to go with Kat Mertsch.
Next question for you, Charlie. First FPO player to win a major, Hailey King or Valerie Mondahano?
Gosh, that's a good one. I mean, recency bias, people are going to want to say Valerie, but you're ignoring the skills and the talent of Hailey King. I got to go with Hailey. I just think we've seen Hailey play at that tip-top level much more often than Valerie. And Valerie, great player, getting better. Could well be in the mix at a major championship sometime soon. I mean, throw pink, more or less a major. She was right there. Hailey King has what it takes. She has to clean up the double bogeys and weird bad holes that she seems to kind of inflict upon herself. But let's not be clouded by the fact that she hasn't played much yet this season. This is still maybe the most gifted all-around player on tour. And I think it's just a matter of time.
I expect Valerie to have more podium finishes at majors this year, but I agree that if it comes to closing out the win, I really think Hailey just has the skill set necessary to excel and not stumble her way into a win. I mean, she could show up and just dominate a field wire to wire and prove why she is, like you said, the next big thing in FPO.
Would you be shocked if Hailey King won this weekend?
No. I don't think I would. After her performance at GMC, especially last year, I would not put it past her.
Think where she won, right? GMC?
Yeah.
Texas States last year was a fully tight woods course.
Yeah.
That's probably the best analog to any course as to W.R. Jackson.
That or Idlewild.
Sure.
Yeah, but I agree. I mean, her wins are not... It's not like she won 3 golf courses.
Right.
She won in the woods, which is even more astonishing to me, given the problems that plague Hailey King. It's so much easier to get the double bogey in the woods because you have a blow-up hole and let it derail your round. The fact that she wins in the woods just shows that she has the complete game, and it just depends on if she brings it. No, I would not be shocked if she won this weekend.
All right, well, let's stay on the topic of Hailey King. Inside or outside the top 5 this weekend?
I feel like I got to take inside. I mean, looking at the top 6, this is the top 6 that we talked about a lot going into the off season. Well, coming in from the off season: Paige Pierce, Kristen Tatar, Katrina Allen, Evelina Salonen, Henna Blomroos, Hailey King. That's your 970 or above crew.
You surely don't mean 970. 940?
No, 970.
They're all 970. No, they're not 970 and up, are they?
Yes, they are.
Oh, you're right. Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
So Paige and Kristen...
The number has moved up over time.
The numbers have moved up over time. You okay over there, Charlie?
I'm good. I'm good.
For a second, I thought I'd said something dumb like 68 strokes again.
I'm the dumb one. I'm the dumb one.
Paige and Kristen at 982 and 980 respectively, and then after that 972 Katrina, 972 Evelina, 970 Henna, 970 Hailey. So there's your 970 or above crew.
Yes. I see it with my own eyes.
I still think that those 6 players are without a doubt the best players in this field, and I expect the top 5 to feature most, if not all of them. Well, excuse me, I expect the top 5 to be made up of most, if not all of them. And if I had to pick one player who I was going to drop out of that top 5, it's not Hailey. It's Evelina.
We all know who it is. Yeah.
Right. So, that's given that that's the case. I don't know why I would pick her outside. I mean, I know there's probably going to be players, Valerie Mandujano, for example, who could jump in. There's plenty of players who could jump into the top 5 with them. But given the level that these 6 play at, it'd be crazy for me not to take Haley King in that group.
Yeah, I really want to take the other side of the trade and say outside, but I don't think I believe it myself. Like, she hasn't been on tour, but you know where she's been is Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, she's had plenty of opportunity to practice on wooded courses, and why not? Like, we've seen her be one of the best woods players in the field. So I'm going to take inside. I think it's just easy to assume that people are like slowly atrophying and getting worse when they're not touring and they've, skipped a few events in a row, but I really don't think that's the case. Like, assuming that they're actually out and practicing, which we don't know that, but you have to assume that they are, right? We've got a major coming up.
Right. I'd hope so.
All right. Good stuff. All right. Last one for you, Josh. Who's going to be the better MVP sponsored player this year? Sarah Hokom or Stacie Haas? And before you just answer reflexively, that it's Sarah Hokom, duh. Let me just let you know that Sarah Hokom has now finished outside of the top 10 at 4 straight tournaments. Well, let me rephrase that. That's not true. She was 9th at Belton. She was 21st at LVC, 16th at Waco, 12th at Texas State. So missed the top 10 at all the Elite Series events so far this year, and then 10th at Tallahassee. So this is easily Sarah Hokom's worst start to a season, like, since she's been a top level professional player. I mean, Sarah Hokom has had a reputation, even when she isn't winning a lot, for still being top 3 all the time, rock solid. And are we seeing Sarah Hokom in the late career decline? She's 39 years old. So that is the caveat. Now, the other thing I will say, Stacie Haas has finished worse than Sarah Hokom at basically every tournament except Tallahassee. So there's the parameters. Who are you taking to be the better MVP sponsored player this year?
Despite the Silver Series win, I'm still going to take Sarah Hokom. Part of the reason why Sarah Hokom has a stretch on the West Coast that Stacie Haas is not going to.
Okay.
So Sarah Hokom's a little bit more on tour than Stacie Haas, it appears. But I mean, it looks like it's just that West Coast swing of Masters Cup to...
probably Beaver State.
Beaver State. Yep, that's Masters to Beaver State. So not crazy amounts of tournaments that we're talking about here. I mean, Stacie Haas is full-time on tour. She's also missing Jonesboro. But even with the rough start from Sarah Hokom, I think that she has the capacity. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of her on coverage because of her poor start. Sarah Hokom has the kind of consistency, though, of the past and a resume that is so long that I'm not going to write her off after 5 events. And maybe that's too long. Maybe that's long enough that we should say, Sarah Hokom, this is it. This is the beginning of the end. But I'm not quite ready to write that chapter in the book for her yet. And so I'm gonna say Sarah Hokom. But you can hear from my answer, I'm not super confident in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to look at her stats. I mean, she's not getting enough birdie chances right now. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just a sluggish start personally. So I too am going to take Sarah Hokom. It's overvaluing this one win from Stacie Haas to say otherwise. But, you look at last year and Sarah Hokom, 28% Circle 1 in regulation over the course of the season so far in 2022. Well, you know what?
It's the exact
28%.
Same.
Here's what's interesting, okay? One of the factors in play here is the fact that we just have players getting better while Sarah Hokom is staying about the same. And we also have the infusion of the European talent into the field, which is pushing Sarah Hokom down the leaderboard. And so that's also part of it. Sarah Hokom shouldn't be expected to be finishing third at tournaments anymore. She should be expected to finish like 7th or 8th. And that's just because, Kristen Tatar and Henna Blomroos and frankly, at this point, Valerie Mondahano and Haley King, they've surpassed Sarah as a player. That doesn't mean Sarah's a bad player, but that's actually very interesting, to look at the actual stats there and see that, the numbers are kind of samey as 2021. It's really just that other players are getting better, and Sarah Hokom is probably at the point where it's going to be harder for her to make improvements, given her age. And that said, I still think she's going to do better than Stacie Haas.
Yeah.
All right. Into our final segment of today's show. We're going to call it Kingmaker. Simple concept. Who can win this weekend and be considered the number one player in the world, in your mind? Now, obviously, there's various ranking systems. There's various algorithms that are going to take into account how many strokes you win by, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. In your mind, who could win this weekend and be considered the number one player in the world? Let's start in MPO.
First off, I'm going to give you the 1053 guys. Ricky, Paul, Eagle. All those guys after the rating updates, tied at 1053, top of the world. Any of those three wins it, I think that they are number one in the world.
You think Eagle can get it?
I think Eagle can get it. I mean, being gone for an injury and then coming back and winning a major,
that's a pretty swaggy move.
It's a pretty swaggy move. Could you imagine if Tiger had won the Masters?
My God.
Swaggy. The fact he finished, impressive.
He made the cut.
He made the cut. I mean, it was amazing. Anyway, I think comes back from the injury, wins at WR Jackson and wins a major. Yes, number one.
Okay. You got anybody else on your list?
I think I would also include Calvin.
Yes, I agree.
And Chris Dickerson.
I agree. I think we've seen enough from those guys. Dickerson, a couple Silver Series wins. Calvin, clearly been at this level for 3 seasons now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the problem is after that, maybe there isn't anybody.
There's only one guy left who even gives me pause. That's it. That's the last guy who gives me pause.
Drew could deserve it. If he starts his season with win LVC in a playoff, crazy start, and then takes a bunch of time off, buys a house, and comes out and wins Champions Cup after the way he played at the end of last season, I don't think the statistical algorithmic models are going to put him at number one.
No.
Just based on the long, hasn't been doing it long enough over the course of the last year, skipped a bunch of tournaments. But in your mind, that would be a pretty legitimizing thing for Drew Gibson.
I think so too. And the other thing, I mean, he took some time off to buy a house. In the meantime, goes to Memorial, takes fourth, cashes a cool $2,000, goes and plays 2 A tiers, wins them handedly by handful of strokes, cashes a cool $3,000 between them. He's not just sitting in his basement of his new house enjoying the new theater room. I mean, he's out just continuing to play good golf, and his rating went up on the last ratings update, even though he hasn't been, he's only been playing A tiers, gets the little rating bump. I think we have to talk about it. I think the fashion in which he wins is important if he wins Champions Cup, but I think that this weekend, depending on how it happens, Drew could be made king by this major.
Other players who might be in the conversation that are upside of the top 10 of the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings right now, you've got Gannon Burr, Luke Humphreys, Nico, Joel Freeman, James Conrad, Kevin Jones. Those are your top 10 in the standings. I couldn't give it to any of them. It would be a great win. They would move up in the board, but I don't think they could go to number one. Just haven't seen enough. Hasn't been consistent enough. And Drew Gibson's on the bubble, but none of those guys have done what Drew's done, which is go out and win an Elite Series event.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's my list.
we don't have that many Elite Series winners, remember, right?
Mhm.
It's Drew and Paul and Ricky.
Yep. And then
So,
Chris, who has 2 Silver Series.
but they don't count the same.
No, they don't. But we're still willing to give him number 1.
Sure. But
Because
that's
of
because
how-
he's already won a major.
Yes.
And we've seen him at that top 5 in the world level for some time.
Right.
Okay.
And that's continually demonstrated by his Silver Series.
Let us know what you think. Upshot at ultiworld.com. All right. FPO. I'll take it first. You've already named the 970 plus players. I don't know that they could all get the win and prove it to me. I think Katrina, 100%. Paige, 100%. Kristen, 100%. That grouping, absolutely a win this weekend moves them to number 1 in my book. Other than that, I just don't know if I've seen enough. Valerie Mondahano is probably the bubble player. Evelina and Henna haven't done enough this season to move up to number 1 with a win. Obviously, it'd be a tremendous win for them, and I think we've seen that. Particularly, Evelina has number 1 level talent, but I just it's been too bumpy of a season so far to say that they would move to number 1. So, could I even put Valerie Mondahano in that camp? I don't think so. For me, I think it's just the big 3. It's Kat, it's Paige, and it's Kristen.
Yeah, I put Valerie in the same boat as I put Drew. Like, maybe, depends on the fashion. If she comes out
Sure.
and just smokes the field and plays amazing and wins this, then yeah, I think Valerie really could get it. Evelina and Henna winning in spite of a debilitating weakness in your game is not, one tournament is not going to convince me that you don't have putting problems. And then Haley King, I mean, she's streaky. We know that. She plays well, plays terrible. So winning 1 would be very on point for her, very on brand. And then she could turn around and then go to Jonesboro and miss the top 10. So
it would be one thing, like Drew gets the benefit of the doubt for skipping a bunch of time because he won LVC.
yes.
I don't think Haley gets the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
It would be hard to say that she deserves number 1 after basically, not playing for a month. Would you give it to Valerie Mondahano? And do you agree with me that the top 3 would all have that claim?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Any of those top 3 win it, they've got it. I mean, that completes Kristen's resume and it just bolsters Paige or Katrina's.
Sure.
Without a doubt.
Another name I want to ask you about, Missy Gannon.
No.
1 player of the year from the Disc Golf Pro Tour last year.
I know. No. I just don't think so. She has an outside top 10 finish at an Elite Series thus far. MCO, congratulations. Like, it's good. But then other than that, her best finish is a tie for 5th at Texas State's. That's not enough for me. Yeah, no, she does not have it. Valerie, though, I think I'd probably give it to her.
Interesting.
What more do you need from her this season to give her number 1? She's got a win on the Elite Series. She has not finished outside the top 5. She's got 2 second places at Silver Series, a 4th at Texas State's, and then a win at a major.
And don't forget that if you look back at the end of last season.
Right. And the end of last season along with
starting at Ledgestone, 4th at Ledgestone, wins a couple A tiers, 5th at Music City Open, which was an NT last year, 3rd at Throw Pink Women's, and it had a chance to win. And then comes into this year and, wins an Elite Series and, has not missed the top 5 at any event. There's an argument.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get there yet. I think she could move up into the top 3 range, but I don't think I could give her number 1. I mean, the PDGA currently has her as number 15 in their tour rank. Now, that's obviously too low for the way she's been playing. But if you think about her performance last year, like that's where she ended up. If you aggregate 2021, that's about right. She was outside the top 10.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, from the recency and where that's been from end of last season to beginning of this season, the fact that she jumped 6 rating points, which, I mean, her rating is still well below that of, that she's 12 behind our 1070 group, that she's at 1058. But at this level, jumping 6 points is a big deal.
It's true.
I mean, I guess my big question, I know she doesn't have the years of tour performance that Katrina, Kristen, or Paige have, but I just would ask, what more does she need to do for me? She beats the most competitive FPO field that we've ever seen in several events now and has not missed the top 5, even though there are 6 players who are all rated right now 1070 or above who are at those tournaments week in and week out. It's enough for me. So I think I'd probably give it to her.
Wins or wins.
Wins or wins.
All right. Let us know what you think. Upshot at ultiworld.com. We thank you for tuning in to our show today. Tomorrow on our Upshot interview series, we will be talking with the W.R. Jackson course designer, John Houck, legend in the game, Hall of Famer. And he's going to talk about the course, his course design philosophy, and a whole lot more. So we hope you join us for that. And then we'll be back on Thursday with a preview show of the Champions Cup. We'll break everything down from the purse to the field to our picks. And we'll have an over-under. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you on Thursday right here on The Upshot.